各位观众朋友，大家好，欢迎收看《全民开讲终结假案》系列节目。今年国人选出的2022年代表字为涨，真的是万物齐涨，薪水永远不涨。基层的民众每日必须奔波于食衣住行的基本需求，有的甚至处于饥饿边缘。这样的社会现象，然而国家的税收却可以年年超增，令人匪夷所思。接下来，让我们来看立委质询的影片。
我这边有一个资料要给您看，在8月30号的时候，行政院开一个稳定物价小组79次会议，请问2位有在吗？
我没有
，2位都没有参加嘛？李秘书长，您是当然委员嘛？你还请假，对不对？这么重要的会议，今年大家都在讲哦，代表字叫做涨哦，可是我们看到行政院物价稳定小组，您2位都缺席，是怎么样？这个会议重要性，为什么不去？
另外的会议要主持，
所以那你们会不能够错开，都是要挑你们在的时间去开另外一个会议。
这个是副院长主持哈，那因为有很多其他的委员要参加，
所以副院长为主。你们2位在行政院里面担任的角色是什么？以秘书长来讲，你在这个会上，你主要主责是什么？你督导谁？
是，我想我们接受在会议里面的决议里面的各项分工，那如果有需要跨部会协商的，会接受副院长的指派。
好，那龚政委，您的这个督导对象是谁？
是我罗政委。
罗政委，对不起，
是主要是发言人系统。如果说有决议的情形需要发言的话，我们这边要随时掌握。
所以你事后发言人系统是主责，那秘书长是看副院长交代的办理，对不对？好，那请教这一次已经到年底了，什么时候会开第80次的物价稳定小组会议？规划了没有？
是本周我们还会再召开。
本周，所以是不定时的，看时间到该开就开，还是说看情况才召开？
它是不定时，但是其实也开得蛮密集的。
开得蛮密集的。
对，副院长随时在紧盯物价小组，还有副院长紧盯这个物价的状况。
我想这个紧盯到这4个月内没有开过一次会，所以今年的涨到这个大家叫苦连天了。这个有一个小吃店的老板要我在这边跟您说他们中山区的小吃店的老板为了要涨一点点价，要跟这些消费的好朋友们苦苦哀求说，让他涨一点点他说现在整个大家要共体时艰，共度难关，奈何国际物价波动，物价上涨政策推行撑不过了这个底气薄弱的小店家也扛不住了，时代的巨人碾压，很对不起，这种心声，这种要调一些菜价，要调一些单品价格，都还要跟消费者们苦苦哀求，大家都不愿意看到万物齐涨下大家这么难过的过日子。那如果物价稳定小组有一定的功能作用，必须要回应民意，回应物价这个产业的发展性有这么高的位置，竟然都是次长开，2位主责的大院的长官也没去，谁会重视这个？谁会重视物价稳定小组的位阶，然后让大家发挥作用？有吗？
行政院由副院长在主持，而且副院长每次都是亲自主持，我想这个就是代表院的重视。所以有发挥什么作用？
到目前为止，对物价稳定有发挥什么作用？
其实有人可以来，
已经涨几波了。
委员可以来评估整个世界各国的物价上涨，其实台湾是算是相对温和。算是相对温和，所以那当然，另外一个原因是这个是国际
要苦苦哀求跟消费者告解，说我错了，我没办法，我扛不住。
那当然确实是事实上有一些重要的输入型的物资，譬如说像小麦、玉米、大豆等等。
早餐店就是这些豆浆。
对，那所以我们也多管齐下在努力譬如说像货物税、关税都大幅的调降，那降低它的这个成本。那另外农委会还有包括经济部也在合作，想要再继续来推相关的平价的这个产品或者平价的专区。
所以有发挥作用的话，今天大家不会在这里哀怨，然后去怪政府东怪政府西了所以我想希望您2位担任这个物价稳定小组的代表，最起码这个召开会议的时候要亲自出席，要不就要代理人，你们连代理人都没有这是说不过去。希望你们也可以检讨这部分。
财政部宣布，今年2022年预估国家税收将超升4500亿，立委建议还税于民，但财政部长却说不会还税于民，而是要用来减少举债和还债。讽刺的是，我们的国家国债依财政部资料，90年国债2兆多，现今变成了6兆多，国人平均每人负担债务24.7万元，也就是说，我们的后代在一出生就必须背负着近25万元的债务。审计长也证实，行政机关编列预算有浮滥的情形，而财政官员长期没有财政纪律的观念可言，造成台湾的长期财政赤字，导致官员为了弥补赤字而滥开税单，造成台湾税灾泛滥，税灾户无处申冤，哀鸿遍野。 被称为台湾法税228的太极门税务案件，因为坚持公理正义，不愿意与国税局妥协，而导致案件至今已超过27年还没有解决。太极门师徒仍然坚持为台湾的人权及法税继续奋斗，来对抗不公不义。接下来，让我们来看这支影带。
Taiwan, a magnificent island, hailed by many as a beacon of democracy in a region plagued by non-democratic regimes. Visitors to Taiwan not only appreciate its natural beauties. They visit gardens, museums, and temples, and enjoy a millennia-old Chinese culture. The rich variety of religions present in Taiwan testifies religious liberty is affirmed and protected. Yet, on December 19, 2021, visitors to Taipei noticed thousands of people in the streets, protesting that for 25 years they had not been protected by democracy, and their right to religious liberty had been violated. In the last few years, scholars and human rights activists throughout the world have often heard the name of these protesters. Taiji Men is a menpai, similar to a school of Qigong, martial arts, and self-cultivation. Dr. Hong Taozu, the Grand Master, Zhang Menren, of Taiji Men, has inherited the wisdom of esoteric Taoism and studied Qigong, martial arts, medicine, yin-yang philosophy, life wisdom, and heart kung fu since a very young age. After martial law was lifted in Taiwan, he started to widely accept disciples, teaching them a path to good health and happiness. There are now 15 Taiji Men academies. Dr. Hong also promoted high-profile initiatives for world peace and brought traditional Taiji Men culture abroad through over 3,000 cultural events and martial arts performances. Dr. Hong has visited more than 100 countries and has become a familiar figure in international peace gatherings and initiatives held at the United Nations. In 2014, Taiji Men was part of a coalition that launched the movement of an era of conscience. The initiative was praised by offices of the United Nations and the heads of state of several countries, with the participation of people in 200 nations, and eventually led the UN to proclaim April 5 as the International Day of Conscience. The bell's sound has also a spiritual significance in many Eastern and Western religions. Dr. Hong designed and supervised the construction of the Bell of World Peace and Love, which was first rung in Singapore in the year 2000. Taiji Men invites world political, cultural, and religious leaders to ring them, making a wish for peace. Dr. Hong devotes a large part of his time to teach Dizzy, similar to disciples, and interview each of them before they are accepted as Dizzy. There is a traditional Taiji Men ceremony after the acceptance. Dizzy show their gratitude to Dr. Hong by giving gifts in the form of the so-called red envelopes to Shifu, Grand Master, as is traditional in Chinese Qigong Menpai. Everybody understands this is part of a personal relation Dizzy have with their Shifu. Several presidents and other high authorities in Taiwan have praised Taiji Men and Dr. Hong for their contribution to the public welfare of Taiwan and for being excellent ambassadors of Chinese culture throughout the world.
Under the Zhang Menren's leadership, Taiji Men has actively participated in international events, raised Taiwan's global visibility. In the future, I also hope that Taiji Men under Dr. Hong's leadership will continue to work with the government that will see Taiwan.
How is it possible that, at the same time, Taiji Men is praised and persecuted? When martial law ended in 1987, religious liberty was officially proclaimed. However, during a long post-authoritarian phase, the ruling party still expected religious organizations to actively support the government. Those who didn't were persecuted. The 1996 repression targeted some of the largest religious movements in Taiwan, including the Buddhist organization Fo Guangshan and Yi Guandao. Notwithstanding its caution in not taking political sides, Taiji Men was also involved in the crackdown, and Dr. Hong was detained together with his wife and two Dizzy. Dr. Hong was falsely and ridiculously accused by a prosecutor who violated the law and abused his authority of raising goblins, a practice totally foreign to Taiji Men. On July 13, 2007, the Criminal Division of the Supreme Court of Taiwan pronounced the final acquittal of Taiji Men defendants, declaring them innocent of all charges. The Supreme Court also declared there was no tax evasion. National compensation for the wrongful detention was given to Dr. Hong and his co-defendants who had been detained. This should have been the end of the Taiji Men case. However, they tried to maintain their tax bills for the years 1991 to 1996, claiming that the money Dr. Hong had received in these years in the red envelopes should not be considered as non-taxable gifts, but as tuition fees for a so-called cram school, a school where pupils receive crash courses, normally in preparation for exams. Different authorities intervened in the controversy, including the Ministry of Education, which has authority on cram schools, and courts of law. All declared that in the Taiji Men case there was no cram school, and no tax evasion. For the second time, the Taiji Men case should have ended there, but this did not happen. In 2019, the NTB, in accordance with the ruling of the Supreme Administrative Court and the Taipei High Administrative Court, agreed that tax bills for the years 1991 and 1993 to 1996 should be corrected to zero, but maintained the tax bill for 1992, including penalties. Logically, this did not make sense, as the content of the red envelopes in 1992 was not different from the other years. In this case, the verdict of the criminal section of the Supreme Court of 2007 that found Dr. Hong and Taiji Men not guilty of tax evasion. Nonetheless, the NTB refused to cancel the tax bill for 1992. On May 5 and July 23, 2020, the Taipei High Administrative Court wrote twice to the NTB for the central area, asking them to treat 1992 as the other years were treated. This also was to no avail. In August 2020, land belonging to Dr. Hong that had been seized was auctioned by the National Enforcement Agency, then confiscated after 2 auctions were not successful. This property was important for Taiji Men, which planned to build a center for self-cultivation on what they consider a sacred land. Hence the protests, which also targeted what Taiji Men and others perceived as the unfairness of the Taiwanese tax system in general and the immoral system of bonuses. Why did the Taiji Men case last longer with respect to other groups that had been involved in the 1996 crackdown on spiritual movements, and in fact is still not solved after more than 25 years? One answer is that Taiji Men refused to compromise with the NTB. By settling, they would have admitted that they had been guilty of tax evasion, something that is both against their principles and factual truth. Ultimately, the Taiji Men cases and protests are not about taxes or money. They are about freedom of religion or belief. Taiji Men was not raided in 1996 and persecuted ever since, because the authorities really suspected it was guilty of tax evasion. In fact, in 2021, a sensational testimony emerged proving that those who started the Taiji Men case knew that the accusation of tax evasion was fabricated. In a video, the late tax collector Shi Yusheng was heard confessing that prosecutor Ho Quan-jen, the main instigator of the persecution of Taiji Men, told him to lie to fabricate a false tax case against Dr. Hong and the movement.
你是说他找你去只是做做样子而已，就是你不管说什么，反正他写他的，是不是？他知道是。
Why was the lie fabricated? The root cause was the attempt to destroy a spiritual movement that taught its disciples to think with their own heads. Authoritarian bureaucrats and corrupt officials are always afraid of those who dare think independently and follow their own conscience. This is also why thousands in the world admire and respect Dr. Hong and Taiji Men. This is why hundreds of scholars and human rights activists support the Taiji Men cause. This is why the case of Taiji Men was repeatedly denounced in international forums, including at the United Nations.
In June 2021, we brought to attention to the Human Rights Council the case of the Taiji Men. We denounced how the tax weapon was used to harm Taiji Men. In September, at the 88th Human Rights Council session, we renewed our appeal for Taiji Men. This time, we highlighted the confiscation of this Taiji Men place of worship by the Taiwanese government.
Those in Taiwan who believe this protest will simply go away with the passing of time are wrong. Protests have now lasted for more than 25 years. As the title of a book about the case suggests, The youth of more than one generation has been stolen, as they had to spend their best years asking time and again for a justice denied. But they did not give up. Generation after generation of Taiji men will continue to fight until the case is solved. More and more in the world will support them. In this sense, we are all Taiji men.
超征税收攸关民生物价，通膨压力导致薪资涨幅追不上物价。财政部滥征税收，该改革而不改革，政府及财政部是否应该检讨？该怎么做才能符合公平正义及符合人民心中的期望？最后，请让我们把心静下来，一起聆听这首《良心时代》歌曲。
怀中采，遍地公时来。良心时代已来到，人人都有好心常有，士农工商样样精，人人都能做好人。良心时代，良心时代。良心时代，良心以来，良心在你在我心，良心天地在，良心好时代，好人一起来，团结向前，勇敢做好事，一起把那力量传开，良心好时代。爱是人。